Welcome back. So, while we wait to see what's going to happen with next season, when it's going to start, all that other wonderful stuff, you know, I've been looking at Boston's roster really the whole offseason and saying, okay, so what are they going to do? And now we're in a situation where Boston has $2.98 million of cap space with which to do it. So they've apparently been in on Hoffman, where they want Hoffman. Hoffman hasn't signed. It's likely because they're not offering him the kind of money or the kind of term he's looking for. Maybe one, maybe the other. It could be both. And this is a team that desperately needs help. The Boston Bruins last year, they win the President's Trophy. They cruised for most of the season. I wasn't entirely sold on the team as necessarily being the best in the league, to the point where there were some that said it's because it's a team Shannon cheers for. He doesn't want to say they're the best. He doesn't want to come across as braggy, but I generally didn't see them as being the best team in the league, even despite the record. And I look at this roster right now and I say, yeah, without Pasternak and Marchand to start the 2020-21 season, whenever it starts. If it starts in February, then you have one, you don't have the other. I think it's Marchand that's closer than Pasternak. But either way, we don't know what kind of health they're going to be in when they get back either. So it's not just a matter of, okay, they're ready to play. It's, are they ready to play to their normal standard? These are two elite point-producing forwards. And so with them out and Pasternak and his 50-goal scorer mentality out, I don't know who scores the goals. I have genuine concern about who's going to score goals on the Boston Bruins with those two out. And especially if they're slow to get up to speed with the rest of their teammates. You look down the wings. We'll start with that. DeBrusk has I think, he can improve more with the goal scoring. I think that everything he said since signing his contract is great, that he wants to play more physical and he wants to be tougher to play against. Awesome. I don't know that he's a first liner. I don't. I hope he is, though, and he grows into that. And then you've got Bjork, who some Bruins fans are sold on the idea of him having upside as top six, and this may help him. Then on the right side, you've got Craig Smith, who just came in from Nashville. He's a 20-goal scorer. I don't know that playing that much ice time is going to benefit his game or if it'll hurt his game. And then you've got Kasha. I love Kasha. Can't put the puck in the ocean last year. So we're hoping that that changes this year. And then another thing, if you're a Bruins fan, that would help is if Studnicka came in and he continued to improve on what we've seen from him before. The potential's there, but he has to show that regularly. If he can, he ends up probably on that second line over Bjork. And then on the other side, another pretty decent forward that I like, Carson Kuhlman. I don't know if he's got top six potential either. So there's a lot of players here that if you're a Bruins fan, you're familiar with. If you're not a Bruins fan, you're kind of probably thinking, who? Or, well, that's not going to work. And there's some truth to both of those statements, especially well, that's not going to work. The division they're in, whether it's going to be the Atlantic, whether it's going to be this Eastern Division, it's going to be brutal. It is going to be very, very tough. And this is a team that's got to ramp themselves up a little quicker than they did coming into the return. In the return, I know they took out Carolina, but it never felt like Boston really got up to speed. It never really felt like they were playing Bruins hockey. So on the rest of the wingers, you've got Lindholm, Solaric, and Lauko on the left. On the right, you've got Wagner. I love Wagner's work ethic. Chris Wagner's fantastic, but he doesn't have that offensive upside. And then you got Senyshyn. If Senyshyn's going to justify the Bruins picking him in the first round back in 2015, now is a really good time. Oscar Steen also on the depth chart. Then you look down the middle. And down the middle is pretty good. Down the middle, 1 through 4, Boston is pretty set. You've got Bergeron and Krejci are your top two, and then you've got Charlie Coyle. Now, it is true, Charlie Coyle could end up on the wing. To start the season, they could move Coyle to the wing. Maybe they move Krejci to the wing. They go, hey, let's just throw everything up in the air and see what works. And Corrali has shown that he can play above the fourth line spot. So it's possible that they move one of their centers to the wing in order to help out their wing spots. Trent Frederick might jump into the lineup then, or Greg McKegg. McKegg's shown he can play fourth line minutes in the NHL. There's Pavel Shen and there's Philippe. I don't see either of them making this team out of camp. But again, there are names in this forward group that if they come through, boy, I tell you, they could surprise people. But no, I don't see it. I don't see it. So it's a matter of how long it takes before Marchand, Pasternak, they're back with Bergeron, and that first line is really going. That's the question mark. And then we get to the blue line, and again, it's a lot of names. I'm going to throw a lot of names out there, but I don't know whether it forms a really good defense core. So you've got Grzelcyk, you've got McAvoy, you got Lauzon is probably top 4, although I'll come back to that, and Carlo. Carlo and McAvoy are pretty solidly in that top 4, right? Where we miss players is we miss Krug, we miss Chara, as I've mentioned, Marchand and Pasternak not up front. Starting to see where I'm going with this. Boston's lost a lot of people, whether it's the injury or it's just exits. We don't know whether or not Chara's coming back, and if Chara does come back, he's likely third pairing, right? He should be, at this stage in his career, third pairing, which would probably bump more out, I think, Kevin Miller, as long as he's healthy, and boy, knock on wood, with Kevin Miller staying healthy, that should form your top 6, but I'm not too sure how much faith I have in that top 6. Even if they do get Chara to come back on $700K contract, leaving them with $2.1 million in cap space, approximately $2.2 million. I don't know how much I trust that. Now, Connor Clifton, I think, again, much like Coleman, good fill-ins. And I think of those two together because they're both guys that when they made their debuts for the Bruins, I collectively said, who? And they turned out to be pretty good. So their fill-in guys are pretty good. But the thing is, when you're trying to compete in a really strong division and you're trying to keep up with teams like if it's the Atlantic, you're trying to keep up with Tampa, you're trying to stay ahead of Toronto. I just don't know that they have a roster that can do that right now. Now, Vakanainen, if he takes a sudden jump, if Sporil comes in and he shows he can be a top 6 defenseman and he pushes his way in, that could help. They've got Kampfer. Kampfer's a number 7 defenseman, and then you've got Wolf and Berglund as well on the depth chart. So again, lots of names, lots of guys. I don't think it translates to another top tier team. I just don't see it. And then goaltending. For all of the complaints about Tuukka Rask had a great season. I know he left the bubble. I understand why, and I still think it's fine that he left the bubble. And I don't think that the Boston Bruins team, whether it's management or his teammates, I don't think they hold any kind of grudge against him for leaving. I think they understand. But Rask and Halak is still one of the better tandems in the National Hockey League. And it is also one of the older tandems in the National Hockey League. So it's possible that Halak takes a bit of a step down this coming year. It's possible that this is Rask's last year, whether that makes him a better goaltender or makes him a more average goaltender if he gets distracted. I don't know. And then the question mark I have with Boston is, I know they're sold on Jeremy Swayman as the future. He's 22 years of age. Is he going to be ready next season? Is it projectable that Swayman could be their starter next season? And if Boston transitions to, say, Swayman and Vlader, how much more does Boston drop next year if we don't see some sort of improvement elsewhere on the roster? I can't see them going into the 2021-2022 season with 2 young goaltenders. But I don't know how much longer they can keep this going. Pasternak is young, DeBrusk is young, but Bergeron and Krejci are not. And this is where it's going to start to kind of decay with Boston. Bergeron gets injured almost every year. Krejci's been very good for the most part, but they're both getting older. And so for Boston, eventually, they're going to take a bit of a fall. I don't see them being first. I know yesterday I did the video where I talked about divisions, and I had Boston at the top because it was like, well, they were first last year. I'll throw them at first. I didn't think anything of it. And I was like, well, you got Boston in first. All right. And it doesn't matter. We don't even know yet for sure whether or not the divisions are going to change, right? So that's a question mark. And there are a lot of question marks surrounding the Boston Bruins right now. I don't know that this is a team that, I mean, let's just take the elite part out of it. I don't know that this team is a playoff team as it's currently constituted. It should be. Absolutely should be. Rask should be able to steal games. Bergeron should be able to get decent totals out of guys like Smith and DeBrusk. But it's going to really depend on Marchand and Pasternak, how long it takes them to get back, and how long it takes for them to get to their usual level. And I don't like the blue line. I don't look at that defense and say I have a lot of faith that it's gonna come through. And I like Lauzon. I do, but I don't know that I like him in the top 4. and I don't more being regular in the top six. It's similar to in Vancouver. You got Jordy Ben likely in the top six, and I don't know. There's a lot of unknowns with Boston, which is unusual because they've been pretty pretty easy to figure out, and pretty easy to predict for years. But it's looking like they may be due for a market correction, and that they may be on their way down a bit. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below regarding Boston and how you think, especially that top six winger spot. Let's just say Marchand and Pastrnak do not end up playing the first month. So January, it may be the second week of January before you get one back, and it might be the first week of February before you get both back. And does that make enough of a difference, or are we still going to be talking about their defense all year anyways, and how they can outscore their problems? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.